I am here with Chris Pierdomenico. Say that correctly?
Yeah.
And he is actually the writer, producer of the Delco movie, which is something I just came like. So pretty much when the Delco movie was first, when I first heard of it, it was because of my friend Jordan. She was telling me she was trying to be in the movie when you guys were filming back then, but I think it was just like a scheduling conflict she had. But anyways, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a great time. We actually just finished principal photography last Thursday. So that was 11 days of filming. We started in November and then we ended in August. So it was spread out quite a bit, due to scheduling, raising funds and everything. But yeah, we're happily in post-production now.
So how did you come up with the Delco movie? What's the story behind that? Because I'm from Delco. I'm from Collingdale personally. So
Oh, okay, nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Aston, Sun Valley High, that kind of thing. So I wanted to do something that was a tribute. Here, I had the fan running. Um, I've always been a big fan of like John Hughes movies, like, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, especially anything that took place in the course of a day. I'm also, a very big Kevin Smith fan. Clerks was the reason why I got into filmmaking, why I realized it was something that was possible to do. And so I kind of always wanted to do my own version of that. I did a version of this movie when I was in high school 20 years ago. It was a project. It was a 70-minute film. I got my friends and family to act in it. It was the craziest thing I ever did back then. And since then, I've had a career of I've done a lot of short films. I've done a lot of web stuff. I teach film full time, so I've always been in that world of media and film and communications. But this always I always wanted to come back to this at some point. It was always in the back of my mind, and as I think it was like 2021. I was realizing, wow, we're coming up on almost 20 years since, I did the original project. It's kind of now or never. Like I need to just do this. I need to write it out and get it done. So that whole process started in 2021. So, initially the movie was always set in Delco. I've always liked writing things that are familiar, whether that is characters or locations or, themes. And what I decided to do was Delco the movie actually was a working title initially because I kind of wasn't sure what to call it. And then when I just thought it was going to be a working title. When I put it out there, it blew up. And so after that, I decided, you know what, we're going to lean even more Delco into this. So the script's been through 7 drafts, and around draft 4, we started really leaning into the Delco aspect, kind of incorporating local businesses into the movie in some way, and just really showcasing it a lot more, and kind of making it like a love and hate letter at the same time, but more of a love letter. But I just felt like everybody could relate to that idea of being scared to die in Delco.
Yeah. So how many people when you did casting, how many people from Delco actually showed up if you do you know?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. I feel like most of our people, well, as far as like the lead roles, most of the messages I got were like Philly, outside Philly, that kind of thing. We didn't have a whole lot of uh Delco folks, but we certainly had a lot of Delco folks working behind the scenes. So my producer, myself, and my assistant director all went to Sun Valley High, albeit in very different years, but we all went to the same school. So it definitely has that hometown kind of flavor to it.
Yeah, no, I saw the trailer and I saw like just the concept of what's going on. It seems like a John Hughes movie, which is where he got the inspiration from. But do you think it's going to blow up into a big thing where Delco is going to be a landmark that fans of the film are going to want to visit eventually?
I hope so. I mean, that would just be really amazing. I was kind of caught off guard that people got as interested in this as they did. When you're creating a project, you hope people will like it. You'd like it. But you know, just the way it took off was amazing. So yeah, I would love people to you know, stop by locations and say, hey, that was in the Delco movie, this and that. We were filming last week at the Delco Shack. Are you familiar with the Delco Shack?
Right by the mall. I just drove past it today. I saw the graffiti wiped off a little bit.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah, we filmed a scene where the kids they are trying to be rebels for one day. They're usually good kids, but they're like, we're gonna rebel for one day, and they kind of start, you know, for lack of a better phrase, they're just being assholes in Delco. You know, and yeah, I feel like that's relatable to a lot of people. And so they one of the things they do is spray paint the side of the Delco shack, and we had people on Route 1 like honking at us, and somebody actually called the police. Uh so, you know, in 20 years of filmmaking, this is only the second time the police have been called on me while filming. So I thought that was cool. But the owner of the Delco Shack helped us out, and you know, I didn't find out till later. But I just like, hey, we're getting attention. So I can't really be upset about that.
well, it's kind of like when they film certain scenes for shows like Walking Dead. They called the cops on what's his name, Michael Rooker, who played Merle, who was
Oh,
shooting. Yeah, they called the cops on him. So I mean, yeah, you're getting the attention that you need, and plus, like your Facebook page, you have a pretty good amount of following as well. And Paul Moderato, I actually had him on
yeah.
my show, told me that he sang the Delco Girl song, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, Paul. I don't know how well you know Paul, but he and my dad were friends, you know, ages ago, decades ago. Like I met Paul when I was probably like 8 years old. And it kind of became one of those things. I think Paul came across you know, my social media post, or he saw like a news article or something, and realized, you know, who it was. It was the son of his friends, like the guy he was in a band with back in the day. And reached out, and he had the song that kind of fit perfectly for the trailer and for the movie. He didn't write Delco Girl. Delco Girl's the name of the song. He didn't write it for the movie, but it wound up fitting kind of perfectly for what I was trying to do. You know, because it's kind of the Delco girl in the movie that's kind of driving the narrative and kind of leading this band of mischief makers, and it just fit really well. So, and we got to get Paul, you know, his own cameo in there, and it's been great. Paul's a great dude.
Yeah, so I know Paul. I work on the radio. I work for an AM station. He did a radio show called Music and Laughter Radio, and he would just play music and make jokes in between the songs, which were pretty funny. But yeah, I reached out to him a few months ago, and we were talking about the Delco movie, which another way I got attention from, you. But
Yeah, man, I appreciate you following and you know, keeping track, you know, kind of all our. I know I feel like I know I post too much, but it's really helped with just kind of building the following. So yeah, my producer always pushes me to post more, especially when we were crowdfunding, you know, last summer. So yeah, I mean, social media is amazing what you can do with it.
well, and there's a certain art that you can work with social media. Like it's amazing that like you could just do something that goes viral in just like a 10-second video with social media, like the Hatula girl, which I think,
Right.
and I mean now she's making like a lot, like millions of dollars just off of that video. But like
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's just weird.
She's doing pretty well for herself. Like I think she's I've seen her like go support like animal charities with her, you know, with her fame. I'm like, you know, she seems like a decent person. I think she got famous for a really crass joke, but she seems like a pretty good person. So you know, that's always nice from famous people.
Well, that's the thing. Like a lot of famous people, there are a lot of people that don't realize that famous people are just like you and I, pretty much. And
Mhm. Oh,
some of them aren't. Like, I mean, I met Frankie Muniz. He was the nicest guy I've met. I mean, I had a good like 10-minute conversation with him when I used to work in Philly.
oh, really? That's funny. I've also met Frankie Muniz. I met him when his band was playing in Aston, like back in 2012. So I went to that show, and we actually interviewed him backstage for my YouTube channel.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So that's funny. That's because he's not someone that's really out there a whole lot. You know, he's kind of doing his own thing now with his family.
What was your impression of him? Because he's a short guy. I mean, I don't know how you are compared to me, but
Yeah, he's a short guy. I mean, he looked exactly like he did, you know, from the TV and movies I saw him in. You know, he was very nice, but I think that he, you know, probably was dealing with like a lot of people coming up to him, so I didn't want to bother him, like, you know, too much. But he was great for the interview. I can actually send that to you. I wasn't the person interviewing, but I ran the cameras and I cut it together. So interviewed him and his band. Yeah, he's a really cool dude. He actually gave me some advice. About filmmaking because we were just chatting casually and I said, yeah, like I'm trying to do this professionally, and he's like, you know, you can be just as successful, if not more, in New York than you can be in LA. So he was encouraging me like, hey, you know what, you don't have to go to LA, you know, for this. And I think now, like 12 years later, that's even more true. You know, it's a struggle to live out in LA. I have a lot of friends in LA and acting or, you know, crew, and it's kind of awful to be out there, like just trying to pay your rent, you know, and it's what's great now is you can do this thing anywhere. You know, you can do production anywhere, you know, in the country. And, you know, we're seeing some, you know, like Georgia kind of open up being like a big spot, but even like around Philly, like we're seeing more and more stuff being filmed around here. And it's like, hey, that's great that you don't have to go, you know, to the West Coast to do this kind of stuff.
and it's easy too. I mean, like you could just do a Zoom meeting, honestly, if you want to talk to like producers or anybody out there. To be honest,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've made some great connections on social media and you know, people in LA and just and you know, COVID kind of put us into this where we're kind of more comfortable doing video conferencing, and I think it opened up a lot of doors.
have you ever worked with any of like the other movies filmed around? Like, what was that movie called? It was the Adam Sandler movie that just premiered like 2 years ago. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a basketball movie. Did you ever work with like him or any of the Rocky movies that were filmed around here?
Actually, I wasn't on the Adam Sandler movie, but I was an extra on Creed 2.
Okay.
Uh, so they filmed that at Sun Center Studios in Aston. So that's like right down the street from the house I grew up in. Which funny enough, like I produced the first TV pilot to ever be filmed at Sun Center Studios back in 2011. Didn't go anywhere, but it was just we were the first ones in there, which is kind of cool to you know, have that you know, distinction. So yeah, I was on Creed 2. I was in the I'm pretty sure I'm not in the final cut. I've seen Creed 2. I feel like the camera kept like whizzing by me, you know, as as they were putting the scene together. So I wasn't in it, but it was a really cool experience. Michael B. Jordan was there, Dolph Lundgren was there, Tessa Thompson was there, and just kind of seeing, you know, that's the biggest set I'd ever been on. So kind of seeing that whole process was just really fascinating and educational.
I didn't work with Mike, but I worked at Crozier Hospital when they filmed the hospital scene, and I got to see Michael B. Jordan walk out of the hospital, and I met one of the guys. He was like an extra in Top Gun back at like the very first one, and we were talking, and he was just like, "Yeah, you know, everyone always says Stallone's a hole, but he's a real genuine guy."
That was that the first Creed or second Creed?
First Creed.
First Creed, okay. Yeah, I've always heard good things about him. You know, he's done a lot for this community. A lot of my friends have worked for him, you know, on various projects. So you know, everybody has a bad day. You know, that's the thing. Is you hear like, such and such is a jerk. Well, you know, maybe they just were having an off day.
Yeah, I was in a movie once that didn't go anywhere.
Oh yeah, what movie was that?
It was called Trolled. I my karate did karate for 12 years at Dyer's in Collingdale, but in any event, he's an actor and he told me, hey, they're looking for an extra and they want you to be in it because you know you fit the description, this, that, and third. I was like, all right, cool. And my whole spiel was me getting thrown on a wooden floor in Philly, which was really horrible. I hated that because it hurt being a stunt double. But Yeah, no, I didn't realize how much goes into a movie when it comes to filming stunt doubles and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you described that, I felt that pain in my back, even though I wasn't there. Uh, that sounds very painful. Uh, yeah, I know, like for our film, we have one stunt. Actually, it's not a stunt. I can't say it's stunt. It was going to be a stunt, but we actually changed it to a special effect where somebody actually gets hit by a car. And so we didn't actually hit anybody with a car, but we did something with green screen. It actually looks pretty good. It still needs to be tweaked a bit, but I was impressed with how that was done. So that was Kevin Hackenberg of Get Kinetic Productions is my production company, is his production company that is working on the movie, and they're just top-notch professional production guys, easy to work with, great to work with. And yeah, they're the ones that figured that out, how to do that, because that's a lot more, that's a lot easier to do than actually hitting somebody with a car.
I also feel like it would actually hurt worse too.
Yeah. Yeah, they want to deal with all the, uh the union stuff and everything. Like, they're, and rightly so, like they're very particular with, if you do stunts. So I just felt like we weren't ready for like a real stunt yet. We didn't have the budget for a real stunt yet. So this was a nice alternative.
Now, would you say the budget was high or very low when it came to filming this movie?
I mean, I think a for in general film land, it's low, but I think for like a very, very low budget film, I think it's high. So it was about $100,000.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So, like I think you could even say like a $1 million movie or a $5 million movie is not a very high budget by Hollywood standards. So I don't think we're very high as far as Hollywood standards go, but I think indie film wise, local film, I think it's up there. Yeah.
Have you sent or are you sending the film to like any of the festivals coming up in the next year or so, or is all that still planned out with
We
editing?
are we are working out. We are working with Media Theater. They're going to be hosting our red carpet premiere in January. So they're going to do that, and there's also going to be I haven't released the details yet, but there'll be multiple days you can go and see the film. In addition to the red carpet premiere, and then after that, we're going to kind of look at our options, whether that is trying to find a distributor and or submit to festivals. It's kind of one of those things that I don't know how well it'll play outside of Delco. I've had friends that have nothing to do with Delco, have no concept of it, that seem to have enjoyed the trailer. So I'm like, all right, well, I think that's a good sign, but maybe they're just being nice. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, Delco was a big thing when Mayor of Easttown came out, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about that, and Kate Winslet said something. Oh, there's an accent that we have, which I don't know what the accent is because I feel like I talk as normal as anybody else.
Oh, well, let me tell you, I've had people, I don't know if you've looked at our comment section on the trailer on Facebook, but man, people are bitching about the accent or lack thereof. They're, that's what they're getting upset about. So, and to me, I feel like that would be kind of annoying to have everybody speaking in that accent the entire movie, and we have a little bit of it in there, but it's not everybody from Delco speaks exactly the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the accent is. I mean, it just everyone's like, you have the accent. No, I don't. I don't.
It's a little like the Philly accent to some extent. It's like a variation of that, I think.
I was told Delco people are very loud and obnoxious, and I'm very loud spoken. And my wife, she's very quiet, and she's like, "Yeah, you have the Delco in you." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I can relate. I can hear the Delco accent in you. I can hear it, and I've been told I have it as well. And it's, I'm not a person into like accents and dialect, but it just kind of, I know it when I hear it.
yeah."
So yeah, but it's just of all the things to get upset about, it's just funny that people are dying on that hill. But we've had a lot of great support too. I mean, we've had over like 3,000 reactions, like likes, hearts reaction on Facebook, and it's been seen like, you know, thousands and thousands of times, the trailer, I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful for that support.
I saw the trailer a couple times. I showed it to my wife and I watched it. And I thought it was really good. I like the locations. Tom Jones was one of the locations. Then the church on Bishop Hill in
Yeah.
Springfield. What were the other locations where you filmed? Because I didn't really catch them all.
Well, I released that trailer before we were done filming. So we added, we kind of did more of the location shoots, like the iconic Delco spots, kind of after I released the trailer. I had to release the trailer. I should say, I wanted to release it for Delco Day, which this year was June 1st. So we weren't quite done filming yet. But we have some other Delco locations in there. I won't spoil it yet. But there'll be some familiar landmarks, you know, that you'll see in there. As far as the trailer, I think what else was in there? I mean, one of those places was like a house. I'm a teacher by day. I'm a film teacher, so it was the house of former students, you know, their parents, and they let us film in there. So that we actually filmed that outside of Delco. We filmed that in Oxford. Um, because that was just a really good location, that particular house. One of the other locations was Doghouse Gaming in Quakertown. I really wanted to get a video game store in Dalco, but we weren't able to find anyone that would kind of agree to let us film there. So we connected with these guys at Doghouse Gaming, and they were amazing. So, you know, I feel like the poster is going to say filmed almost in parentheses entirely in Delco, because there's a couple spots where it's not, but you know, it's make believe.
Yeah, no, I got that. And I also know how old are all the actors? Because the girl who I remember, she said she wrote something on Facebook saying, "I'm 31 playing a teenager, ironic," or something like that. But are the other two, are they in their 30s as well? Or are they a little bit younger?
The other two actors are in their 20s.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in their 20s. It was funny. So the three of them are absolutely amazing. I mean, they carry this film. I knew that this film was only going to work if the three of them worked well off each other. And so in the beginning, when we did auditions and then we did callbacks, I did what George Lucas did for Star Wars. I don't know if you know this, but I mixed and matched different people in like a trio and trying to figure out like where's their chemistry, where's it going to work, and then it was very clear it was these three. You know, I had them play off others, but I knew it was going to be them. I had a feeling. I'm usually very intuitive about this, and yeah, I mean they carry the film. I mean we're around them the most in the film, and they really make it work.
Wow. No, yeah, that's what you need though when it comes to filming a good movie. You need the chemistry between the cast members, and you need them to work well. Because with certain films, some cast members just hate each other, and they just have to play it off so well to where the film will
Yeah.
work. I mean, I think that's in a few movies, isn't that? Like, there's a few people that just don't work together. I can't remember.
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray in What About Bob? But he's supposed to hate him in that movie, so I think that worked well.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's amazing though. Like how you made this movie, and I could see it becoming such a big thing. My mom's in her like 60s, and she was even saying, "Oh yeah, like I know somebody that worked for the Delco movie." She didn't tell me who it was, but
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, the most surreal moment for me was like last summer when it started blowing up, because we had, so it was like a 4-week campaign on it's called Seed and Spark. It's kind of like it's a crowdfunding site. I really recommend it. They're great folks over there. You know, we were going strong for like 2 or 3 weeks out of the 4 weeks, and then we got front page of the Daily Times, and then Preston and Steve were talking about us. Like my cousin messaged me and said, "Preston and Steve are talking about you right now." I was like that just blew my mind. Uh, So that's kind of when I had to kind of pinch myself, and it's been very, very cool. And I hope this isn't the last Delco movie I make. I mean, I have plans for the future. I'm not going to do a sequel to this, but I definitely want to make more films to take place in Delco. I definitely have a few concepts I'm working out.
Speaking of Preston and Steve, have you ever contacted them to be on their show?
I've been there. I've been in the audience there a few years back, but no, I guess I didn't. I mean, maybe when we're gonna do the screening, I'll reach out. I know a few folks over there. I guess I felt like they'd reach out to me if they really wanted. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean I know a couple of guys over there, so they know how to get in touch, but I didn't want to presume that I would get an interview.
Yeah, no, well, Casey's from Delco.
Yeah. Casey's a good guy. Yeah, I emailed him. Um, just letting him know when the thing was going on, when the crowdfunding thing was going on.
Yeah, and it's amazing what, like you said, with social media and even radio, because radio still people listen to radio, and it doesn't matter how old they are, they'll know about the Delco movie whenever it gets screened and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I mean it's radio is still one of those things you can do. I mean, that's why podcasts are so popular. You can listen to it while doing anything else.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I do. I mean, with my podcast and plus working on the radio, it's the same concept almost. There's just more technical aspects when it comes to the radio than podcasts. I mean, I'm sure it's the same concept, but different. It's all different
Yeah.
compared to you know. Have you done any horror films at all?
Not really. I I did a political zombie satire 4 years ago, in the midst of COVID, but I wouldn't really call that a horror. That's like probably the closest I ever got to a horror movie, but it's really not a horror movie. It's more like a South Park or Parks and Rec matchup.
Yeah, no, I see. And you went to Westchester University, right?
I did, yep.
And you graduated with a film degree?
No, actually, I graduated with I went initially for secondary English education, so I was going to be an English teacher. I did my student teaching. I loved working with the kids, but I realized I really didn't like teaching English. There was just way too much paperwork with it, way too much to keep track of, and so I said, all right, well, I felt like I had to choose film or teaching. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to choose film. I'm going to do that. And then a couple of years later, an opportunity came up where they needed somebody to teach like production and film at a high school. And so I've been doing that for like 12 years now. So, it's a great day job. I love it. And what's been really cool about it is I've been able to bring onto my team a lot of former students, which has been very, very exciting, and kind of makes the teaching part kind of feel even more purposeful. I go back to school in a week and a half, and so I'm excited because I get to hang out with some really creative kids and kind of help inspire them in some way.
That's kind of what a teacher did to me at my school. He did TV production, and it was the school news. And
Yeah.
he basically told me keep go like he left randomly out of he had like a personal issue, but in any event, he wrote me a 5-page letter telling me to keep going. And then when I got in the radio, I reached out to him. I found his email online, and I said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me." And we start talking every now and then. We reach out to each other, and he tells me to send me my reels or my demo, and will give me criticism, but I like it. You know what I mean? It's good to have a teacher that actually cares, and it seems you care about your former students, which is a really good aspect when it comes to teaching, and really good shows what kind of person you are when it comes to teaching kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just paying it forward. I mean, that's awesome that you have that relationship with your teacher, and he inspired you, and it's even the smallest encouragement I think really just goes a long way. I had really great teachers in high school, and kind of what I don't know if you saw in the trailer. There's a montage of kind of different teachers in a school. Almost all of them are teachers I had. I cast my retired teachers to play themselves in like bit roles in the movie.
That's
You
awesome.
know, because
Well, go on.
yeah, I realized, I'm like, I have a lot of fond memories with these teachers, and you know what? They taught for a long time, so there's a lot of other people in my audience that probably have fond memories too, and so that would just be really cool to do. So, yeah, I like to do that from time to time, like kind of pay homage, and sometimes that's literally putting a person playing themselves and saying exactly what they said, in the classroom, 20, 30 years ago.
Have you had any crazy teachers in high school? I've had
Uh, yeah, I would to some extent, sure. Not many.
not many.
For the most part, I got along with my teachers.
I mean, I've got along with my teachers. That I went to Academy Park, and I mean, there were still some crazy teachers that just didn't like any kids. It was weird.
No, I never had a teacher like that. All my teachers were pretty much, they were there. They seemed like they were there for the right reasons. Even if it was someone I didn't really gel with, everyone's heart was in the right place. So, Academy Park, though, that's interesting because I applied to a job there for years and years ago, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. I applied for the TV production teacher job, and then I guess they wound up cutting the program.
Yeah, they did. Like I graduated 2013, and when the teacher left, basically the class was a joke. I got an easy A my senior year, and we just literally reread old news stories from like January, and it was June. It was really bizarre when when that teacher left, because nothing got done, and it was just the same thing over and over again. And I wanted to quit, and it was for a senior project. They said, no, you got to finish the senior project and just stick with it. It was so boring.
That's a bummer. Yeah, sometimes it's the teacher carrying the program. It's hard to replace a really great teacher. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, and we had a tech guy too, but I mean, I really wish he would have just stepped up and done it. But he's actually been helpful for me. He actually gave me my old demo tape of the school news, which was pretty cool. I posted that on my podcast about a year ago. But yeah,
That's cool that you were a school news kid, because that's like, we produce a show every day during the school year. It's a lot of fun, and I let the kids run it. I mean, I help, especially, when the tech is failing in some way or is unpredictable in some way, but it's their show, and it's very cool to experience.
have you ever thrown kids off the air for saying something like out of control? Or
Um, I, there's only been a couple times. I've been doing this like 12 years. Once or twice, somebody said something on the air that they shouldn't have said. And that was dealt with. And it wasn't like, it was never malicious. It was always like an oops. So yeah, there were two times. Well, there were a few times that I had to kind of deal with things, but thankfully nothing too terrible.
right. I gotten thrown off a couple times for
Oh,
stuff
really?
I said though. Like
What did you say?
so when we would get to school lunches, my teacher said put adjectives like greasy pizza or whatever. So I wrote long juicy hot dogs, made the cut, and you hope it didn't make. So when someone said banging hoagies, like, yeah, these hoagies are really banging, and you could clearly hear in the background people laughing at that. And the freshmen got really naughty with what we said, and I got thrown off for that. This is the
Oh
second
my
time
God.
somebody said Yosemite. Well, we were talking about the Yosemite. He said Yosemite. I got thrown off for not correcting him, which I thought was kind of messed up. But yeah, I mean, those were the 3 times, 2 or 3 times I got thrown off
When you say you're thrown off, do you mean for the day, or do you mean like for the week, or like how long was that for?
for a week.
For a week. Okay.
Oh, the last time. So when the world was supposed to end in 2012, but in quotations,
Yeah.
we did the regular school news, and then I thought of a good idea. Like, okay, like for a bit, why don't we just say it was nice knowing you guys? I'm gonna play End of the World as You Know It by REM. So it was like, all right, Tristan, have a good vacation. Oh wait, I won't see you because the world's ending at 3 o'clock today, which is when school ended. And this kid who was mentally challenged, he got really freaked out at the announcements, and I had to write a sorry note to him and his parents because I freaked him out, not knowing it was going to freak out anybody.
Sure, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, when you have the captive audience of the whole school, you just never know, how people are going to react.
I felt so bad. I mean, but
Sure.
still good content. I like that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's great. Yeah, you just never know. Like he didn't do it on purpose, so it's
Yeah, and it was the last day before winter break too, which was maybe even like better too, because like no one
right.
caught it until the end of the day, and then I got a phone call right before we went to school, and it was from my teacher. He was like, "Hey, you messed up, so you gotta fix this." And he told me what happened, and I was like, "Oh," it's like, "All right, here we go again."
Yeah, yeah. I've had that conversation. I've had that conversation. It's not fun, but no, I don't. I think I've only like kicked a person off the air like one time for 1 week, and it was mainly like off camera behavior, like just being unkind to people. It was really what it was. So, but that doesn't happen a whole lot. So we generally have a really good team, and they generally like each other, so it's not usually an issue. I
Well,
think
that
the biggest criticism I get is probably uh some of the kids like will laugh through the announcements. Like they'll not many of them, but there's a couple that just like they can't say it with a straight face. Just so I usually I made them demote them to something not that because the announcements are important. Like there's important information being put out there. Like they need to hear it. School needs to hear it. So
yeah, that's what they would do. Well, so when we would do the announcements, some of them behind the camera would make us laugh, which was really bad because I hated that. I would always laugh because they would just make stupid faces, and you're trying to be serious during the announcements, and I'm sitting there trying to cover my face so I don't get in trouble. It was great. I love that. It was my favorite time probably being on the school news.
yeah, one of the coolest experiences I ever had was going to a former student's wedding, and he was somebody that was on the news, and his best man was somebody on the news. So kind of sitting there listening to like the best man speech and him talking about like their time together on the school news and like kind of the crazy things they did. Like this is like really cool. Like this is just you know impacting generations upon generations. So that was just that was a really fun experience.
So do I train of thought. So do some of the kids that you teach, do they go on to either news or radio, or do they do something completely different once they graduate?
It depends. I would say probably the majority of students I teach do something else, but there's a good percentage that go into communications in some way, whether that is news or radio or journalism. I also teach a journalism class, so that's more writing focused. We have a digital newspaper online, that we do, so that's a whole different thing. And I have a lot of kids going to filmmaking, too. So yeah, so it's probably like maybe it's hard to say, but I feel like I usually have a good amount of people that go into it. But I'm an elective, so people are taking me if they don't want to take art or food class or music or stuff like that. It's like, all right, well this is probably this will probably be more enjoyable than that.
Is your class an all year class type deal for for production, or is it just like half semester and then another half this semester?
They're all semester classes, and but a lot of folks will take like level one in the fall, and then they'll take level two in the spring. So it's kind of like a full year for them, but just the class period might be a different time, or
Yeah.
who they're with might be a different time. So yeah, it's all semester classes for the most part. you know, with the electives. I have my newsroom is a homeroom, and so that's all year long.
That's what it was for me when I did TV production back in the when I was in high school a long time ago. It was all
Yeah.
year. Some of the kids that were actually in the class a year prior to that, they would come in during the school news, and pretty much they would help out with the school news, just doing the announcements, running the board, or whatever we had. So
Awesome. You meet a lot of it's yeah, we have a whole hallway, you know, at our school that's, you know, the arts, it's, you know, art, music, engineering, foods, we have a childcare class, just a lot of hands-on stuff. And it's I always love meeting the kids that really feel like they belong down there. Like, you know, if a kid a kid may be home for that in a lot of cases, like, you know, kids are only coming to school just to do like one of those programs. Like that's the only thing that they're interested in. It's getting them to go to the other classes. So um, you know, and I think it's also kind of a blessing and a curse that I get kids exactly how I was when I was in high school.
yeah, well, that's what I like about school. Some schools should teach hands-on material because you know going out of high school we don't really learn a lot. It all just depends on what you take in high school, like the elective wise, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, you know, it depends on the program, and I'm very fortunate where I am because I feel like they let me do my own thing. Like the upper administration trusts me to do the program how I want to do it, you know, and I try to keep it, you know, obviously, you know, I'm doing this big feature length film. I try to stay as updated as I can because I'm living it when I'm not, you know, in the classroom. So I don't like to let things you know, stagnate. So I'm always changing stuff. Like I'm always you know, keeping track of things. I know not every school gets to do hands-on stuff, so I'm grateful for the opportunity they've given me and the kids.
Yeah, no, that's good. I saw something about I think you got tagged in it. It was called Westchester the movie. Your friend did it.
Yeah, Westchester the movie, it's called We Blow the Westchester movie. But that's a guy, Casey Costigan. I actually just met him today, in person, but he is doing a film, a feature film, in association with the Westchester Borough, kind of as a tribute to Westchester. It's very, very different from my film. It's not a coming of age. It's about like two historians. So it's totally different, but you know, he did acknowledge like, you know, he was inspired by our campaign last summer. You know, kind of market it that way. So and he's almost done filming that. So, you know, he's been very, very supportive of Delco, and so I wanted to kind of pay it forward, give him some, you know, attention, you know, on the Westchester movie, help him get it finished.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That you would be a cool concept. West Chesco versus Delco should be Chester County. That'd be a good boxing movie. I feel like that
Like
was
a
a,
like an Avengers style movie, like team up.
yeah. That I mean, I think that would be a really good concept. I mean,
Uh,
uh, you never know.
we we take a few shots at Chesco and Monco, you know, in our movie just for fun.
Do you ever talk about Bucks County in the movie at all, or no?
I don't think that comes up.
No.
Yeah.
Do you have any? So, what other plans do you have for Delco, Delco-based movies?
Well, I have in my head different several different concepts that I think are worthwhile feature ideas that I want to plan out. I know what the next one's going to be. I will say that you'll know the title of it at the by the end credits of Delco the movie.
Okay,
That's I'll reveal the title. But basically, I don't know if you're a big Kevin Smith person. If you watch those movies.
I've seen bits and pieces. Yeah.
Bits and pieces. Okay. Well, you know, a lot of his movies are standalone movies, but they take place like in the same town. And so like a lot of the characters, they know each other. You know, you have some characters kind of cross over, you know, from one movie to another, not main characters, but like side characters. And, minor characters. And that's kind of what I have in mind of doing. That's what I've always wanted to do, since I saw Kevin's movies, is kind of do my own version of that. So the next one, I know what it's called. I know the basic plot outline, but I'll reveal that at the end of the credits. So
Well, that's one thing I like about spin-off movies. There's always like a side character from one of the movies that you watched of the original, let's say like X-Men, and they show up in Deadpool, for example.
right, yeah, yeah,
And they're
yeah,
they're a character, I think.
yeah. I mean, are we allowed to spoil Deadpool on here? I feel like enough people have probably had enough time to see it.
I've seen the first two. I didn't see Deadpool versus Wolverine.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't say anything then. It's great. You should check it out.
Is it? Are there like camos in there that I would actually be like, oh shit, or is it just kind of like they're there?
Yes, if somebody described it like if you know the history of superhero movies and especially like movies in the 90s and 2000s, like not MCU, but like, those types of movies, that you'll appreciate it a lot because they pay homage to those early superhero movies of the late 90s, early 2000s before they had the MCU. Um, it's very much a tribute to like the Fox X-Men universe, kind of like a conclusion to it. So yeah, kind of like that. You have people coming back. In Delco, there's a lot of characters, a lot of side characters. It's carried by the main three, but there's a lot of side characters that pop up that certainly in my mind I have more stories in mind for them. So we'll be seeing many of them again.
Are you a Spider-Man fan?
Yeah, yeah, I love Spider-Man.
What did you think of No Way Home, or is it Far No Way Home? Is that the third one?
Oh, I have the third one. Yeah,
What did you
I
think of
loved it.
when you saw
Of the
Toby?
what?
Well, I was going to say, what did you think? Toby and Andrew just like show up randomly out of nowhere.
I mean, I suspected it was happening. I didn't know for sure. So I know, like in my theater, it was a big. I mean, Andrew Garfield really got the biggest cheer because that's kind of the one that came out of nowhere. Uh, I loved it. I mean, I saw the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire in 2002 in the theaters when I was like a sophomore in high school. And so that's a very, very clear memory to me. I saw all those Spider-Man movies. I watched the first Garfield one I didn't get into, and I saw the second one in the theater. I kind of like that. So to kind of just see this almost 20-year celebration of cinematic Spider-Man was amazing. I had so much fun in the theater, and I think it holds up on multiple rewatches too. It was kind of like the Avengers movie for all the Spider-Man villains. Like, let's team up all these Spider-Man villains from the different movies, and it was in a lot of it was like a conclusion for all the Spider-Man movies. Like we never got a Spider-Man 4, we never got Amazing Spider-Man 3, so it was like a conclusion, like an epilogue for those series, for those franchises, while still very much being Tom Holland's movie. He's the one that has to grow, in that. So it's really, it was a beautiful film. It was a lot of fun. It's fan servicey, but I think it's fan service done right. It didn't feel gimmicky to me.
Well, I was also reading an interview with Remy and Mark Webb's films. They expressed interest in producing like another Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man 4, but it's just like the characters are old now. You can't really go from 2007 to let's say 2026 if like Spider-Man 4 came out because Toby's going to be almost like 50, I would imagine, in like a couple of years, and Andrew Garfield is the same age, like in his 40s. So it's like you can't really make these films several years later unless there's a better, I guess, like storyline or something that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you had Logan. Just looked at him as an older character. And that was very well received. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, heck, you have Michael Keaton coming back as Batman. in his is he in the 60s or 70s? I'm not even sure.
He's
Uh,
like 68 or something.
think he's like late 60s. Now, of course, that, flash bombed terribly. So unfortunately, I think that killed any chance of us getting Michael Keaton in a Batman Beyond movie, which is what I really wanted. I wanted to see Michael Keaton come back in Batman Beyond as the mentor. I think that would have been really cool, but that's never going to happen now.
Do you think we're ever going to see a Static Shock movie? That's something I've been waiting for, a live action Static Shock. Just
That would be really cool. I think with James Gunn running the studio, I think you might see something more like that. I mean, James Gunn's always been really good at kind of picking, you know, not the most popular characters. Not, I mean, I know he's doing Superman now, but nobody knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before James Gunn. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of the mainstream audience wasn't familiar with Guardians of the Galaxy, and so, I think. I grew up Saturday morning cartoons, so I remember Static Shock, but I think to kind of the everyday person, they're not going to know who that is. But I think James Gunn can make that kind of character interesting to people.
I just hope that a lot of movies stop dealing with the multiverse because that's so played out. I mean, I read something. I'm a big Halloween fan. Michael Myers. I was reading that they were trying to do like a multiverse with that. I'm like, how can you do a multiverse with Halloween? Like, I know there's multiple timelines, but you can't just do that. Like, you're not gonna have like 7 or 4 Michael Myers running around, and then like the evil doctor that's like trying to put masks on kids to blow their heads up. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're getting out of that phase. And what's funny is like Deadpool and Wolverine, that's very much a multiverse movie, but it makes fun of the fact that it's a multiverse movie. So I feel like you might appreciate it in that sense. But I think with at least what I'm seeing from Marvel now, with them moving towards Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, that was a really interesting pick. Um, that was wild. I think with the stuff with Jonathan Majors and Kang, I think they're probably moving away a little bit from the multiverse stuff. So, which is good. I think it's just going to force them to tell kind of better stories.
Do you think that's a good move for Robert to do Doctor Doom, or do you think it's kind of a bad move?
I think it's a good move, but I think it's a safe move.
Okay.
I think I think that Marvel's been struggling, and they really since Endgame, and they're like, okay, because not only are they bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, they're bringing back the Russo brothers, so they're bringing back all these elements from like the one of the at one time was the biggest movie of all time, and it's they're going to do great. I mean, it's Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo brothers. I have no doubt it's going to be incredible, but it's definitely safe. I think some folks have said it's maybe a sign that they haven't really been cultivating new talent. They have to kind of rely on. I don't know, but I'll go.
I think that's what a lot of people like, the older talent. Talent. I mean, it same goes with like radio and news and TV and whatnot. Like, people want a familiar face, which will
Yeah.
get them. Not necessarily, it could get them ratings, but it also could be a bad move, depending on if it flubs or not. I mean, take a look at Kevin Costner's movie. I mean, his movie flubbed, and I believe that he's not. I don't even think he's going to put out the second or third one, from what I read a couple months ago when it came out.
Which movie is that?
I don't even remember his name. It was a western, but it literally just came out in June. I forget who it was.
Oh,
But yeah, he did a movie, and it was about a western, and it flubbed, like big time.
yeah. Yeah, I didn't even hear about it, so that says enough. Yeah, it's funny as a filmmaker, you have to kind of be careful. I'm careful kind of with what I say online, because obviously these Marvel movies are huge, but like I had watched. Did you watch WandaVision?
Yes.
I loved WandaVision. I thought that was amazing. There was one thing I didn't like about it, and that was that twist with Quicksilver. I was really annoyed by that. And so I posted about that on Facebook, just like, hey, I love this, but I thought this was really bad. I didn't realize I was friends with somebody on Facebook that worked on the show.
Oh wow.
So it kind of came at me in the comments, and I'm like, look, I agree it's a great show. I just didn't like this part and just kept trying to explain it. Eventually he unfriended me.
Real.
So yeah. So I try to be careful because you just never know. Not that I ever really see myself working on Marvel movies, but those movies take a lot of people, and there's a lot of there's hundreds of thousands of people that work on those projects. There's a good chance that I'm going to cross paths with somebody.
What did you feel? I know there's a lot of Deadpool and Wolverine are getting a lot of backlash because of the whole God uh situation thing going on. Does that offend you in any way, or do you see that it could be offensive to other people, or is it just people bitching about the movie?
Are you talking about, wait, which part with him saying that he's Marvel Jesus?
Something like that, yeah. And like a lot of
Yeah.
Christians are so pissed off at that.
Yeah, I saw a video. Look, uh I pretty much tolerate almost anything on screen. I'm if you watch my movie, you can kind of see where I stand spiritually at the moment. I think it kind of gives it away. But certainly that's in my background a lot. So I'd say, like, among people I know that are in the Christian faith, they seem to not mind. I think it's just really been a small minority that hasn't liked it. I know there was like this couple that posted a video on TikTok ranting about it, and I'm just thinking, okay, it's the third movie that's rated R of a trilogy that's all been rated R. How could you not, like, how can you be surprised at the kind of stuff in here? Because it is, it's not family friendly at all. It is, Disney did not water down Ryan Reynolds, which I think was great. They let them do their own thing. I mean, that's crazy to hear all these F bombs and sex references in a Marvel movie, an MCU movie, but it's there and it works. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't, no, I wasn't offended. Probably for various reasons, but I was not offended. I didn't think it was worth getting upset about, even for people in that faith. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like everyone just complains about something that like I don't know, just the whole thing with people complaining just annoys me when it comes to whatever they're watching. I mean, it's for every show or any show that's on the air or movie. There's always something that somebody complains about. Turning Red. I know a lot of parents got offended because it brought up a girl, going through her monthly cycle, or Corella. It was too scary for kids. I mean, it's weird that people just get so upset about something that's on the movie, something that's fictional.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a parent, like, if you're, I'm not a parent. I just make that clear. I'm not a parent. I don't plan to. Yeah, I don't like to tell parents what to do and what not to do. But I think you're kind of responsible for what your kids intake. And I think it's completely reasonable to say, I don't want my kid to watch this. I think that's acceptable to say that about something. But it's kind of on you to check out, like, is this movie right for my kid? Um, there's so many resources for that I think going and being surprised by something, like, there were parents bringing their kids to Deadpool and Wolverine. That's just a stupid idea. Not like, not teenagers, but like little kids. And it's like, how can you not know? So I think it falls on the parents. I think we have, I personally, I really liked Cruella. I didn't really like Turning Red. But I think people are entitled to their opinions. I think, I don't know. And also, we just like to bitch about stuff. It's just the human race thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, I bitch about certain things too. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I bitch that Stranger Things isn't gonna come out till 2025 now, but
Gosh, yeah, that's so weird. And what's her name?
Millie Bobby Brown.
Millie Bobby Brown. She was like 10 when she started on the show, and now she's she's 20 and married. It's just like, oh my, I just feel old. I just feel, you can see all the gray hairs.
When did it come out? 2016. Now
I
it's
think it was
20.
2016.
So it's almost
Yeah.
10 years. I mean, it's just bizarre. I remember when it first came out. I mean, I'm 29 now, so just seeing those kids grow up, it's weird. They're
It
all under.
is. Yeah.
I'm rewatching the series right now just to, as a just in case. Why not?
Yeah. 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 It's tough when you're working with kids and they get, they grow up, so you kind of you have to keep an eye on that shooting schedule. I know that the pandemic really messed up what they were doing with the Stranger Things season 5. And so I'm really curious if, we saw at the end of season 4, like it made it seem like it's going to immediately go into season 5. Are we going to see like an enormous jump in time? I wonder.
I
Like
I
it'd be weird.
I think the Duffer Brothers confirmed that it's going to be a time jump. It didn't say how big the time jumps are going to be. Maybe like a few months, but it should just kick off right from when season 4 ended. I mean, that's a pretty major cliffhanger when there's ash falling from the sky, and then you see
Yeah.
the sky changing colors, and 11 and Hopper and all the characters are just looking at the sky, and it's just crazy. It could just go right into that, but I don't think they're going to do that.
I know. I was hoping they would do that. I thought that 4 was the end. I thought that was going to be the end of the show. I didn't wasn't aware they were doing a 5th season, and then we got to the end of that, and like, oh, okay, I guess there's more.
I mean, I think I was told season 5 is going to be the best season, but the craziest one yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of like movies and TV shows like that. It's just I've always been a sci-fi guy and paranormal guy.
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's a great genre. It's a great type of show for just bringing different genres together.
yeah.
And I especially like the last season. We really leaned into horror a lot more, which I thought was really cool.
Did you cry at the end of the at the season finale?
I'm not a big crier with movies most of the time, but was I was emotionally touched. Yes, yeah, it's very very heartfelt. I think I felt the worst for what was the name of the guy in the 3rd season that was like the Russian spy that wound up helping them, and he got killed. He
Oh,
was like that nerdy.
yeah. No, I know who you're. I can't remember his name. I'm only on season 2 now, rewatching it, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, my heart broke for him. I really was starting to like him.
He was not. He was a great character. The one thing I like that they're bringing the Russian concept into that show because it kind of feels like it's happening here in this day and age with everything going on. I mean, not to get political, but like it kind of feels like it has that same feeling what's going on here versus what's going on in the 80s or what happened back in the 80s because that was a big thing too, wasn't it? If you know,
Yeah, I mean, Rocky Balboa himself ended the Cold War in 1985 by defeating Ivan Drago.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, no, yeah. I mean, back then Russians were the villains, and they're kind of the villains again. I think, yeah, I don't want to, obviously not the Russian people, but the Russian government. They were very commonly villains in the 80s movies, and we're kind of seeing that again.
we were talking about Red Dawn when the war broke out in Ukraine on the radio. We were talking about Red Dawn. And I was like, I never saw that movie. And they were like, "Oh, you never saw the original?" I said, "No." So I watched the movie, and I was like, "Oh, the football team defeated the Russians in the '80s." So I was like, "That's a pretty cool concept." I think it's Red. Is it Red Dawn? Is that the one I'm thinking about?
Right. Red Dawn is when the Soviet Union invades the U.S.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
when they and the football team were the heroes of the town.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And they did a remake, and it was China.
Oh, was it? I didn't know it was China. I never saw the remake.
Yeah, they changed it. I didn't see the remake. So
how do you feel about remakes? I just think they're some work and some don't. But what's your view on that?
Depends on the depends on what they're remaking. I think if yeah, to me there has to be a point. You know, there has to be something they're doing differently um to make that work. And like I'll give you an example. I like when the Amazing Spider to go back to Spider-Man, when the Amazing Spider-Man came out, just 2012, I didn't go see it in the theater because I'm like, I've already seen his origin story. Like I saw his origin story 10 years ago. Like I felt like I was just in that world like 5 years ago with Spider-Man 3. So I didn't have an interest in going. But when I actually like gave it a chance, I watched all of them prior to No Way Home. I'd seen all of them except for Amazing Spider-Man 1. I'm like, oh, they really did do some different stuff with this. Like it's clearly a different take on him, and I really like that. I really like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I think he's different enough. So, you know, in terms of remakes, in some ways, I think remakes are more creative than the legacy sequel. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, they did the same thing with The Strangers. I mean, they pretty much made the same movie, but it was just it took place in a different area, a different time, and it was different from the very first film, but it wasn't scary as much as the first film was back in 2008. But I thought they did a pretty good job for the remake that came out.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't see the remake, but I saw the original back in '08, which was pretty creepy.
I have a summer house up in the Poconos, so like it's secluded nowhere. Every time I go up there, I always think of what could happen or what would I do different if I was in their predicament.
Right. Just lock the door.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything that you have coming up before we close out?
No, I would say just keep an eye out on delcothemovie.com and our social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, especially. You know, we're going to be talking about the premiere information. We're going to be showing it at Media Theater in January, so I'll have more specific information out about that when we have it. But yeah, we're you know check it out, like our page, like and follow, and if you have supported us, thank you for supporting us. We couldn't do it without you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. This is the first interview I did all summer, so I mean, it sounds
Oh,
yeah. I took a summer break, and my last interview was I want to say like the last week of June, and I'm finally getting back into podcasting for the rest of the year. But thank you for being my first interview back.
yeah, happy to do that, man. Yeah, best of luck with the podcast. So you're getting some great hits on on TikTok, right?
TikTok, and I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. I had my very first big interview was with Audra McLaughlin. If you know her, she
Yeah, I
was on
know.
the
Yeah, she's local.
she got me on the map pretty much, which is really awesome.
That's
But
great. Yeah, she's really cool.
yeah. But anyways, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, TJ. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you around.
Awesome. See ya.